This just came up casually in conversation with my 37-year-old female mother-in-law, 68-year-old female. In reference to meeting her at the waterfront near our home, I was asking her to narrow it down a little when she said my wife, 40-year-old female, could look for her location to make it easier. Assuming she was mistaken, I said she would have to share her location for that to work, and she informed me that she and my wife have that set up 100% of the time. I laughed and said that's so unhealthy. Got off the phone and asked my wife to confirm, and she said yes. I asked, does that mean the opposite is also true? Are you sharing your location with her 100% of the time? She said yes. I was being snarky because I thought she would agree with me. I said something like, come on, you must think that's weird. Not even when you say it out loud? Anyway, she's furious with me, says I'm being mean. She's crying and left the house furious with me. Am I the jerk here? I feel terrible about having blundered in and upset her, and will definitely apologize for the insensitivity as soon as we talk. But please someone tell me, is the maps thing normal and I'm the crazy one? Update. Wow, that was an absolute deluge of responses. Truly wasn't expecting it to have that much engagement. Posting to hopefully wrap things up here because I really need to stop reading this for a while. Just going to address a couple of things quickly. 1. Thanks so much to the people who came here sincerely to give me a different perspective on the location sharing thing. My takeaway from lots of people giving their input is that the 24/7 sharing is a much more passive activity, whereas I think my experience of using things like dropping a pin or sharing an Uber ride, I think my perception of it is more of an active thing. I get there is a range of perspectives and comfort levels on this, and I clearly need to make a bit more space for that. 2. I'm a woman. Despite me including it in the original post, lots of people did miss the fact that my wife and I are in a queer relationship. Really, no offense taken. It's an easy mistake to make when reading through these quickly. Wanted to highlight it so that hopefully anyone who visits this subsequently doesn't get into a whole "I don't get it because I'm a man" conversation. 3. I behaved in a shitty way to my wife. I thought I was clear on the fact that I knew I was the jerk for my response, attitude, how I said it, but I obviously didn't do a great job of that. My focus was more on the location thing, and I definitely saw that my take was definitely in the minority about location sharing. 4. Lots of people asked follow-up questions about my wife and mother-in-law and their health, backstories, and lots of further questions about their relationship, my relationship with parents, etc. I've responded to questions about my own relationship with my mom a few places in the thread, but I really get the ick at the prospect of adding more personal info about them. 5. Everyone's saying, what if something happens? What if she gets in a car accident? What if all the worst possible things? I'd respectfully ask all of you to stop it. I've gotten the point you're making, but please stop making me visualize the worst possible things happening to the best person I know. 6. Last but not least, I had already apologized on the phone when I posted this. When my wife came home, I apologized again in person, and she was gracious enough to accept my apology. A little later, I told her about this post and told her the internet has decided that I suck and she's right, so that gave us something else to giggle about it. Thanks everyone, XX. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. You're the idiot. Your wife's decision to share her location with her mother and vice versa is between them. Why do you care? And why did you think anyone deserves to be the recipient of your snarky comments? I was being snarky because I thought she would agree with me. I said something like, come on, you must think that's weird. Not even when you say it out loud? Well, you were wrong. Your wife didn't agree with you. Comment 2. You're the idiot. I laughed and said that's so unhealthy only if they let it be. My mom and I share each other's locations 110% of the time. It's never been a problem. We usually just use it if we can't reach one another. Otherwise, neither of us really care to check because we're not that interesting, LOL. Now, for the update, thanks for all the comments last time. Here's what's been going on. So after all that mess with the location sharing, things seem to be getting back to normal, or so I thought. My wife's sister, let's call her Sis, has always been the kind to stir the pot. But what she did this time was beyond anything I could have imagined. Sis has always been jealous of my wife, I guess because she's the younger one, and felt like she was living in her shadow. Well, she took it to a whole new level. She went behind our backs and told my mother-in-law that my wife was having an affair. Total lie, of course, but it caused a huge rift. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, confronted my wife about it, and it was a disaster. My wife was devastated, and I was furious with Sis for lying and causing such pain. But it didn't stop there. Sis, in her twisted way, thought she could leverage this lie to get closer to our mom. She started spending more time with her, filling her head with more lies about my wife, trying to turn her against us. It was like she wanted to be the favorite daughter by default. The aftermath was brutal. My wife was heartbroken, feeling betrayed by her own sister and misunderstood by her mom. It took a lot of talking, a lot of tears, but eventually my mother-in-law realized she'd been manipulated. She apologized to my wife, but the damage was done. The trust was broken. Just when we thought we could breathe again, Sis did something unthinkable. She took out a loan in my wife's name. We only found out when the bank called about missed payments. It was a nightmare. My wife's credit was ruined, and we were staring down a mountain of debt we didn't even know existed. I wanted to go to the police, but my wife, she's too kind. She said it would destroy the family, and she couldn't do that to her mom. So we're paying it off bit by bit. It's going to take years, and it's not fair. But my wife insists it's the only way to keep the peace. I can't forgive Sis for what she did. It's unforgivable. But for my wife's sake, I'm trying to move past it. She's the one who's really suffering. And if she can find it in her heart to not press charges, then I guess I have to support her. It makes me feel weak, desperate even. But I love my wife. I'll do whatever it takes to help her heal. Thanks for reading. Scout 6. My uncle stole my grandma's assets after Granddad died. But I fought back and left him homeless with the original will. My granddad passed away in July 2020 due to infection 19, and Grandma was very upset over his passing. Next, one of my uncles took control of finances, bills, everything. Mid-December 2020, I asked my grandma if she agreed to this, which led to an argument, and me and my missus got kicked out of her house. Next day, I got a call from Grandma saying, "Please come home. I never held a grudge and came back to apologize." Then to find out that my uncle was pushing Grandma to move south with him and his missus, as you don't have anyone here. Turns out Grandma wanted to talk to me about what to do as she was uncomfortable. I simply said, if you're uncomfortable, don't do it. You're his mother, so he has to agree with your decision. So she told him no, and he took it well. Too well. March 2021, Grandma made a will with a local solicitor in their office. But later that evening at home, the solicitor called me and asked if my grandmother had the properties in her name. I said she should do and asked why. She said something didn't sit right with this and wanted to check. I said I'd check and went to land registry to find out, and what did I find? The same uncle that controlled everything had his name on all of my grandma's assets. I asked my grandma if she did this, and she didn't even know this happened. I was shocked and immediately told the solicitor, asking, what can we do? A legal battle ensued, which was over 1 year. Turns out that my uncle fraudulently signed property transfer papers so everything would be in his name. Even my own mom got involved, siding with my uncle. He decided to do a settlement which Grandma agreed to as she was getting sick of everything, including her own kids. He gave her money in return for one of the smaller assets, and she wanted no contact with my uncle ever again. Mid-2022, she made a new will, and we finally got peace. So I decided to take Grandma on holidays once every few months, which she loved and made lasting memories. End of Jan 2024, she was diagnosed with cancer, and I told my mom to be here with Grandma as she should settle things with her and make peace with her. Even if my grandma didn't want to see my mom, I just wanted to do the right thing for both. A month later, Grandma passed away at home. Last week, after the funeral, my parents came to the family home to discuss with me and my missus about the houses and the other stuff. They suddenly jumped in saying, "You need to do the right thing and give us the house and our share as we are the children, and you're just a grandchild. We know you did everything in the last 3+ years, but compared to us, you didn't do much." Set us in our own context. My parents haven't been in this house regularly for over 10 years, and I lived here since 2010. Me and my missus simply said, "Sorry, but what Grandma wants to do, it is her decision and not ours." This led to shouting, me and my mom mainly, and threats of legal action from them. We never mentioned the will, as said by the solicitor. Am I the idiot? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1, not the idiot. Stupid, selfish individuals are calling you an individual and will continue to call you an individual. But your grandmother was of sound mind and body when she made that will, and it's none of their business what she decided to do with her belongings. Comment 2, not the idiot. Tell your mom to go talk to the uncle, her brother, to get her share of the property since he stole her share of the inheritance when he committed fraud and took property that wasn't his to take. Now for the update, thanks for catching up with me again. So after that whole mess with my parents, things just spiraled. You'd think after Grandma's passing, we'd all come together, right? Wrong. My parents, they've always had a way of making me feel like I'm just a doormat. And this time they really outdid themselves. A couple of days after they threatened legal action, I got served. Yeah, you heard that right. They actually went through with it. They wanted the house, the one I've been living in and taking care of Grandma in, and they wanted it now. The nerve after all these years of barely showing their faces around here. I was fuming, but I kept my cool. I had to. For Grandma, the court date was set and I was dreading it. But then something happened. My uncle, the one who tried to swindle Grandma before, he showed up out of the blue. He had this look on his face like he knew something we didn't. Turns out he had a copy of Grandma's original will, the one before all the fraud stuff. And guess what? It had some pretty specific instructions about the house and everything else. The court day was a circus. My parents were there, all high and mighty, thinking they had it in the bag. My uncle was there, smug as ever. And then there was me, just trying to honor Grandma's wishes. When my uncle presented the original will, you could have heard a pin drop. My parents' lawyer tried to argue it, but the judge wasn't having any of it. The will was clear, and it was legally sound. So the house stayed with me, just like Grandma wanted. My parents were livid. They said some pretty harsh things you can't take back. But I didn't budge. I was done being walked all over. You'd think that would be the end of it, but no. My parents, they couldn't let it go. They started spreading rumors in the family, painting me as the bad guy. It was like high school all over again, but with higher stakes. Family members I hadn't heard from in years were suddenly calling, taking sides, stirring the pot. It got to the point where I had to take action. I gathered all the evidence I had, the will, the legal documents, everything, and I sent it out to the whole family. I laid it all out, the whole story, no holds barred. It was a bold move, but it was the only way to clear my name. The aftermath was, well, it was something. Some family members apologized, said they didn't know the whole story. Others, they stayed quiet, probably embarrassed they'd been so quick to judge. And my parents, they were the talk of the family, but not in the way they wanted. Their reputation took a hit, and honestly, it was a long time coming. As for me, I'm just trying to move on. The house is quiet now, too quiet sometimes, but it's mine, and it's what Grandma wanted. I'm thinking of starting a family of my own soon, filling the house with new memories. It's time to look forward, not back. Thanks for sticking with me through all this. My friend expects me to cancel my dream trip to Japan for her overpriced wedding. But when her fiancé dumps her, I take her on the trip and show her what real friendship looks like. Kayla and I, both 32-year-old females, have been friends since elementary school. When she got engaged this Christmas, she didn't ask me to be a bridesmaid because it was an automatic given. I love Kayla, but the problem is that her wedding is taking place overseas and would cost more than I think is reasonable. Kayla's fiancé is from a tiny, far north Scandinavian town, and it is where their wedding is happening. A couple of weeks ago, due to some family pressures, they changed the date from midsummer next year to midsummer this year, which is only about 4 months away. Between flights, the hotel, most everything in town has already been booked for midsummer, including every spare room and couch at his family's home. So the rooms at the final available stays are around $300 per night for the 7 days of wedding events. The rental car, the bridesmaid dress, the full traditional outfit required to be worn for some of the events, pet boarding, as well as general incidentals, we are looking at a minimum of $8,000. Kayla was very apologetic about the change when she announced it, but has not acknowledged just how big of an impact this is. My husband and I have good jobs and are lucky that we don't have to worry about the day-to-day expenses of life. But we do still have to be thoughtful and save for any larger purchases or travel. For the last 4 years, we have been saving for our 10th anniversary trip, a 3-week tour around Japan, and had just booked flights when the date change was announced. Kayla didn't know I had just booked flights, and when she broke the news, she actually said, "You're so lucky. You've been saving all that money for a vacation anyway. Here is where I might be the jerk." I also had a destination wedding. My husband and I got married in Alaska right out of college when most of our friends, including Kayla, didn't have particularly good or secure jobs. We know now this wasn't exactly fair of us, but we split the rental of a big house with all our friends, and flights to Alaska aren't anywhere near the $2,000 each it would cost us to fly to Kayla's wedding. I'm scared that if I tell her the truth of why we can't go, it's too damn expensive. It will ruin our friendship. I could see why it would. She was a bridesmaid for me, while far less financially secure than we are now, and she knows we have a lot of money saved for travel. I fear she would question if our friendship is not worth canceling our Japan plans and flights. Our friendship means a lot to me, but I don't think it's fair to plan a wedding this expensive to attend and expect me to cancel our dream trip to accommodate it. I don't want to risk it, so my idea was to lie and say we have to do a major home repair, fixing the foundation maybe, that will cost all of what we have saved plus more. Then when it did come time for the Asia trip, say we were gifted the trip by my husband's parents. I know that there is a risk she would find out the truth and be even angrier. Is that risk worth it to avoid telling her the truth? Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Sigh. On the one hand, I appreciate that folks are so worried about disappointing their friends that they'll make things up and risk getting caught and ruining the friendship that way, instead of just being honest that it's too expensive. It keeps the subreddit more entertaining. But for the sake of being a grown-up and handling things like grown-ups do, I'm begging you and everyone here to please learn to communicate with those important to you. You're the jerk for making up lies instead of just saying, "Hey, it's not in the budget right now, but here's a great gift and I want to celebrate you when you get back." What works for you? Not the jerk for not being able to go. Just don't lie about it. Comment 2. This is a tough one, but I'm going to have to take a "you would not be the jerk" flyer on this one. I would go about it a different way though. Say you had already booked the Japan trip and it's non-refundable, and then have some major home renovations come up. If you still would like to go but simply don't have that money on hand, say so, and say you could pay her back, but at no interest. This makes it seem like you genuinely want to go and are looking for ways, but that you just don't have the means to because it was switched so suddenly. Make sure to apologize profusely throughout. I'm probably going to get downvoted for being a jerk, but I think that this is the best route for you. Now for the update. Thanks for sticking around. A lot has happened since my last post. So Kayla's wedding drama hit a peak. Her fiancé's ex showed up out of nowhere, claiming she was still in love with him. It was like a scene straight out of a soap opera. She made a huge scene in front of his family, and Kayla was devastated. I felt bad for her, but part of me couldn't help but think this was karma for the stress she put on everyone with her wedding plans. The ex's arrival caused a rift between Kayla and her fiancé. They fought, and the wedding was suddenly on hold. Kayla was a mess, and guess who she turned to? Me. I was there for her, despite my own resentment. But here's the thing. Her fiancé's family blamed her for the drama and started to pull their financial support for the wedding. With the wedding up in the air and her relationship on the rocks, Kayla finally realized how much she was asking of her friends. She apologized for the first time genuinely about the cost and the stress. It felt good to hear that, but I was still sitting on my own lie about the home repair. Then my husband lost his job. It was unexpected, and suddenly that Japan trip wasn't just a dream, it was an impossibility. We needed that money for real life, not just foundation repairs. I had to come clean to Kayla. I told her everything about the Japan trip, the lie, and now the job loss. She was surprisingly understanding. Maybe it was her own troubles that softened her, but she told me she just wanted me to be honest with her. We cried, we hugged, and it felt like we were back in elementary school again, just two friends supporting each other. But then Kayla's fiancé did something no one saw coming. He broke up with her. He said the drama with his ex made him realize he wasn't ready to get married. Kayla was heartbroken and the wedding was officially off. Now she's planning a trip to Japan with us. She said she needs a fresh start, and what better way than to travel with her best friend? It's not the anniversary trip we planned, but it's a new beginning for all of us. Thanks for reading. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.